Yeah, let's talk about
It's
that because you
fascinating.
you you
Sure.
also recently made some headlines. I think you're a
Yeah.
millionaire now from NFTs.
I guess so.
Hey, yeah.
I guess.
So how does that feel?
Um, it doesn't feel real yet. As I'm sure it's like people, it's just like, really? Okay. Like sweet. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't feel real yet. It doesn't feel real yet. Yeah.
So
Um,
so tell me about it. What artworks did you sell for how much?
so what I did last year, I saw people did his crazy drop and made like 3.5 million in like, like 5 minutes or some crazy thing like that. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's happening here? Something's going on. And I saw
Uh-huh.
my friend Victor Mascara and some other friends getting into it. And so I applied to some of the sites around like super rare and I got in. And then this other site contacted me, Vive, and they were like a brand new website on a brand new blockchain that like everything right now is on Ethereum and they were on a new network called Flow. And I was like, well, what is this? What is this thing? And after researching, I was just like, okay, these guys are the ones who made this game, the most like popular Ethereum game called CryptoKitties, and they spent the last like 5 years making their own network specifically designed for these high volume transactions with like no cost to do it. Where on Ethereum, they basically broke Ethereum with CryptoKitties when they launched it. It just clogged the network and everything like ground to a halt.
Whoa. Okay.
So like they basically made this just for that, and I was like, okay, these guys clearly know what they're doing, and they're also the people making NBA Top Shots, which is like the most successful, crazy thing happening right now in NFTs, like collectibles. And I was like, okay, this seems like it's a risk, but I feel like it's a very um, I just feel very confident that whatever happens with them will do well because I think they know what they're doing
Okay.
based on their successful past successes. And so I kind of just went for that. And originally it was just let's sell some of your movie art, and I was like, well, I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to go there. Like, let's just do my personal work, and basically settled on uh, a lot of personal work I did over the years, exploring just like evolution, evolving characters and biological life on Earth. So, starting from primates to like far out aliens and stuff, and basically turn that into a collectible series and launch that in like different packs, similar to how NBA Top Shots does it. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was great. Like I was super nervous. I didn't know what to expect. Like we did a bunch of work and marketing and stuff, and but you never know. Like the night before, I was emailing my friend, like, "Oh my god, I feel sick. Like no one's gonna buy this. Like maybe I made a mistake." And then like it sold out in like 5 minutes or something. I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, so
It's
so
like
what?
no way.
Because I saw your ones on Super Rare. I think when I went to go to
Yeah.
Vive, it was the website was clogged or something, and I couldn't access it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I didn't actually see your final pieces. So was it an auction? These ones on Vive?
No, it was similar to how NBA Top Shots works, where it's like it's almost like you're buying like a basketball card pack in different rarity levels. So it's like we have the
Oh.
common pack, we have the rare pack, we have a legendary pack, and each one has different levels of rarity and also what you get inside of it. So like a common pack is like 2 cards of common, a rare is like one rare, two common, a legendary is like like one legendary, two rare, and then like
Yeah, right.
some breakdown like that, right? Um,
I
and
think
just
Dead
it
Mouse
just
did the same thing, right?
probably I'm sure, yeah, I see a lot of people starting to do this, but it basically just turned it into more of like something bigger than just individual pieces,
Yeah, yeah.
because like I guess I'm just thinking ahead of just like the one of one is great or selling like editions of individual things is cool, but how do I turn this into something bigger? Like if I
Right.
sold those individual pieces, like it still would have made good money, but not nearly as much as it did if I turned it
Right.
into like the next Pokemon or whatever it might turn into.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like just turning it into a much bigger idea. Like I think that's helpful too, is just like looking at the work you have if you want to use that. Like what can I sell? What looks like a one of one painting that someone might want to buy, and what might be better for like something bigger I could turn all this into. Um, and yeah, just strategizing and like thinking about like bigger long term plans and stuff is good, I think.
Right. So you sold collectible item packs of like what'd you get? Five
Yeah,
cards and they're sort of random. You don't know what you get.
yeah, it's
Kind
all
of like Pokemon.
randomized. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
kind of like that. Yeah, and different rarity levels. Like, oh, that's just they made so many of that Pikachu, it's not very valuable. This
Right.
shiny one, that's the good one. You know,
Yeah,
it's got a
yeah,
little
right.
like this.
Yeah.
Um,
And how many?
or
And
it's like you got that
what were the
rare Jordan or
prices?
whatever.
What were the prices? Yeah, for each pack, what were they?
I think on this because everything was in flow and the price was fluctuating quite a bit. And I
Yeah,
think, but on the day of sale, I think the common was maybe 400, something like that.
four hundred
And
dollars.
then the rare was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to check because like it fluctuated so much. But I think the legendary was like 2,000, 2,500 for a legendary.
Whoa.
And then kind of in between those two is like 88 flow, 40 flow, and like 8 flow, something like that. You'd have to like check the price on the day kind of thing.
I gotta tell you,
Um,
that completely blew what I thought the prices were. I was thinking like a price of like basketball cards, like what, $10 or something? You must have
no,
sold
no, no.
like
So
huge
so
volume.
it's
Okay. So
well,
four hundred
because
dollars
it's
to 2,500 per pack
something like
of
that.
how
Yeah.
many cards?
Common was like 2, and then legendary was like 5 cards.
Whoa. And there's
But
obviously
you
a
also have
limited
to,
amount of packs sold.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like, but a lot of it too is just analyzing the market and seeing like like say Nifty Gateway is like the biggest site right now and sells like the craziest amount of their stuff. And
Yeah.
um, at the time, like their artist open editions were like increasingly going into crazy territory. Like one image with like 500 copies was going for like 3,500 to 7,000. So like the prices that were normally going for a one of one are now turning into like edition prices. And it was like, okay, well, if
Jeez.
you're getting five individual pieces of art that could all be very valuable for like
Right.
much less than that. Like that's still kind of
Yeah.
undervalued a bit based on what's happening in the market. So for
Right.
me,
I
it was
see.
like, okay, it's like in between a basketball thing and in between like this artist edition thing. So we're kind of in the middle of these two extremes. Um,
It definitely is a cool idea. I didn't know that about Nifty Gateway, their open editions, and I mean
yeah.
that's the other thing. Okay, so explain the terminology because I don't know enough about it. So you can sell one-offs, and what are those called?
Yeah. I guess just like one of one
Okay,
or like, yeah, more like a traditional fine art thing. That's just like a
you get one.
auctioning a
That's it.
painting. Yeah.
Right,
It's like there's only one in the world and it's usually goes for a lot more.
right.
Because there's only one of it, right? And then there's a thing called open edition, and what Nifty Gateway does that's really cool is like they'll sell as many as people buy, but only for 5 minutes. So it creates this window of like
Whoa.
however many people buy it for 5 minutes, that's all that will exist ever. And so it gets people to just like commit right there to do it.
Whoa.
So it's pretty cool. Like a lot of things like this that are very interesting, like strategies for like selling things, and I feel like they're usually on the forefront of this stuff, and like I feel like they've never done the same thing twice. So like every time you're like, I think another artist recently did something where he did an open edition, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then look into it further and see what he did, and you're like, oh my god, that's so brilliant. Like I would have never thought of doing that. Where it's just like a 3D scene of like a statue, and you're like, that's pretty cool. But every person that bought, he created a randomized algorithm or something. So like the scene was different for every single person who bought those
Oh, that's
700
cool.
editions. So like,
That's
and then it creates a market where people are like, which one is the rare one? Like, which one is the coolest? And so they're all fighting and like
Yeah.
trading to be like, well, I like this one. And then the market starts to decide like, what is the rare version of the variants
That's
of this
cool.
one idea. And I
Yeah.
was like, God, that's so brilliant.
That is actually the thing I hope to see more of is that NFT art that changes depending on variables. Like Beeple's one on who wins the US election, or I think the first like Bitcoin artwork was like it changes depending on what the value of Bitcoin is that day. So it's like it's got some algorithm that
That's
twists it.
cool.
And
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'd love to see a lot more of that stuff because that's really cool. Because it's like, why does art have to be static? Why are we rendering
Yeah.
still frames and selling them when it could be dependent on the price of oil at the time or the weather
Yeah.
or it could be really cool, you know? I
feel
mean,
like there'll be
it
a
is
lot
cool.
more
It is cool.
innovation like
It's
this, yeah.
it's getting there. I'm sure. It's
Because I feel like right now it's still early days, and like, yeah, the idea of selling like one of your digital paintings is just like revolutionary for us now, but looking forward, there's so many cool ideas that we'll be able to do, and I feel like the innovation is just getting started, and it's going to be really, it's just be cool to see where all this goes. It feels like every week is like 10 years of progress. So it's kind of exhausting, but like every week you're like, oh my God, what happened? Who did what? Like, oh wow, that's so like, I got to change what I'm doing because that's so much more like genius than anything I could have thought of. I got to do something even cooler. So it's like this, it's like this crazy arms race of innovation.
So what are you working on now? What's your next piece?
Right now I'm thinking about what I should do to expand the Evolution project. And then I've also been working on some collaborations with different artists, and also I've finished my graphic novel I've been working on for like 4 years. So originally I was just gonna like make a book, like publish a book, but now with all this, it's like, okay, what's the coolest way I could do an NFT of like this huge body of like my life's work? So I'm kind of like figuring out the best way to organize that, and maybe figure out a way to do a graphic novel NFT, or maybe just a series of art from the book, but then you get the book when you buy part of this NFT drop or whatever. It just opens up so many new avenues to like fun things or sell our thing. Like probably selling a couple NFTs of the comic would be way more than I would ever make from the publication of selling the book or something. So it's like, it almost like reverses the whole thing, like make all your money up front that typically you'd have to wait like 20 years to get selling a book or whatever. It's just kind of, it's like the Wild West right now. It's like everyone's just trying to figure it out, like, which is exciting,
Before NFTs, there was already the well-known, I don't know, rebuttal, hatred, where artists selling out, There was this feeling that, when an artist does something for a corporation or does something to line their pockets, that they are sort of anti-artist. And I've noticed a really strong pushback from people on social media of just the whole NFT space in general. And I'm sure you've seen it as well. I mean, for one, there's the ecological disaster, that kind of thing, which you've avoided by using this different space. That's cool.
Sure, yeah.
But there's also this idea of like, artists have just become, money hungry. It's not about the art anymore. It's like, how can I milk this and get the most out of it? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah,
I'm sure there's always people like that whenever, like there was people like that in the last 10 years in our industry before this happened. Like there's always going to be people like that, right? But what's cool about this to me is that it does bring the focus back on the art, and the people who do love making art can finally make a living with that. Whereas before, the industry we worked in kind of viewed all the stuff we did as worthless, right? Like, oh, give me 20 of these by lunchtime because they're worthless. It's just an idea for the client to decide. But now, and because of that, I know so many like talented friends who are just like, man, it's really hard to like someone wants to start a family or do something else. So like, maybe I gotta become a businessman. Maybe I gotta make my own like online platform and move as far away from art as they had to make that kind of living to support their family or whatever they wanted to do. But now I feel like if they want to do that thing they love, like for me, it was, I just want to be a great artist and make great art. Now I can make a living making that great art and selling that great art to people who love it. And to me, that's just like the hugest part of this that maybe is getting overlooked. It's like, we all got into this place to make amazing art and hopefully be able to make a living with that. And I feel like now this is it's totally possible now with the least barriers, that you don't have to have all these hoops to jump through to make a living with your painting, like selling 1 million prints and selling this and doing all this other stuff just to be able to pay rent. It's just like, now I can just make this painting that I love, and there's an audience that really wants to collect and own that painting. And I'm seeing so many artists just change their lives like overnight, selling a couple paintings that, like, I mean, look at like Cornelius, right? The image he did that was used on Octane for like 10 years or something. And some of his other work, like I read that he was like really struggling when he made all those, and like he basically had to make a tutorial. He had to make a tutorial to even like try to make a living, but then, it gets pirated and then you don't really make that much after a little while.
Yeah.
And then it's like selling that one painting basically made up for all those years, made up for all those years of like not being able to make a living with that amazing image he was creating. And stuff like this is just huge. To me, at least, I just think there's so many huge positives that will change all digital artists' lives that it's just a huge moment that I think we shouldn't overlook.
Yeah. No, that's totally right. Because that's the other thing a lot of people don't understand is like without income, you don't get to make art. You have to